Whoa. We're finding this. We're finding this. Is it working? Yep. Okay, new video, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. It's going to be a good day, I think, today. What I wanted to talk about today is something I've been really thinking about to myself. Being early and incompetent is better than being late and competent. And this comes to this is an entirely of internal distinction. Like, this is not about what you release. I think what you release and what you put out as a creator should be very high quality. Like, it should be something that's really good, and it's better to take your time. But when it comes to showing up every day and doing the internal things that are required for you to get the external results you get, being early and incompetent is better than being late and competent. So, like, originally, I think I've been really wrestling with the idea of perfection and what that means, because it's consumed most of my life, and I thought there was a way to do things. Let me just adjust this a little bit. I thought there was a way to do things that, like this, like, you need to feel like you're in the moment of something to really produce the best result. And now that I kind of see it, dude, I feel like that's not true. I feel like whatever people consider genius is done by a million different incompetent iterations. And some slightly competent iterations, but it's mostly about showing up every single day and being obsessive about what you're trying to achieve. The reason I say this is because I look at somebody like Quadeca. Quadeca is he's a pretty big artist, and he's known to be like a genius with music. Like, people are like, oh, this guy knows so much about how to craft these perfect songs, and I automatically look at somebody like that, and I'm like, oh, this guy must have something I don't, in terms of they just have this genius stroke of luck, and they're able to bring it into. They just show up and they're able to do it, and they're able to create these songs that sound great, you know. And because I never have the conversation with Quadeca, I'm never able to talk to the guy. That's what I assume. I assume when we get somebody like Kendrick or Drake, they can go in and they just create what they need to create. They don't have this barrier between them and what they're trying to create that I struggle with, and I think a lot of creators struggle with. But again, I've never talked to Drake, I've never talked to Kendrick, I've never talked to Quadeca, so I don't know what their actual creative process is like. But it wasn't until I had my biggest video, and actually the newest video on my channel that's performing more higher than any video I've performed. Both of these videos, I saw people in the comments saying stuff like, oh, like, this is genius, like, this is like one of a kind, like, how do you think of this? And, like, kind of alluding to the fact that I'm some sort of this, like, unreachable, unattainable genius, in the same way that I see someone like Drake or Quadeca or Kendrick in the fields that they do. And I think, dude, I'm not a genius. Half of what I'm doing is just showing up and winging it in the internal background, but continuing to iterate. I make a lot of bad or bad content, bad music, bad decisions when it comes to stuff, but I iterate them into good decisions. And what got me to where I am is showing up and not feeling like I'm not enough to show up, but then continually iterating. And then eventually something that's really bad becomes something really good. And again, that's the only writer's process that worked for me, but some people consider that genius, so it makes me rethink, wait a second, does the whole idea of that you need to be in a perfect state and you need to be in a flow state to produce, is that complete bullshit? Like, is that just something that's been taught to us? Because everyone who I assumed that was true for, I've never talked to. And and people assume that's true for me, but if you actually talk to me, you would know that half of my life and half of my quote-unquote genius is showing up and failing a million times in a million different ways and trying to find traction. So I truly believe, like, it makes me think I was wrong about productivity. I was wrong about creation before. And really what the game is never feeling like you're not good enough to show up. Like, if you're on your phone, you've been doom scrolling for 2 hours. You feel overstimulated. You're like, oh, I'm not going to put my best work in today. I think showing up regardless and showing up no matter how incompetent you feel, no matter how lazy you feel, showing up to do the internal work necessary to create external greatness. Because external greatness, anything you look up to, whether it be a really good YouTube video, a really good song, a really good anything, all of these things were made from a million internal iterations. They weren't just, I think, discovered. They were worked on. And a lot of ideas are really good, but they need to be worked on to reach that level of greatness that people desire. So greatness is not something that is necessarily found. It does have some very golden elements that, like, oh, you just stumbled across a great opportunity, but it requires mostly work. And a lot of good things can be worked into great things. A lot of bad things can even be worked into great things, depending on how creative you are. So I think that with everything, it's just a matter of don't waste time. Show up no matter how weird or bad you feel about yourself and how not good enough you feel like you are for the job. Show up and do the internal work. And as you do that, you're going to make a change to what you're doing. Let's say, oh, I'm not the greatest, I'm not the greatest at YouTube videos. Well, I'm going to show up and just open up the Premiere Pro every second I get. If I'm tired, if I'm like done doom scrolling, if I feel lazy, if I feel like overwhelmed, even if nothing happens, showing up and just opening that Premiere Pro screen, opening that screen, being in that environment, forcing yourself to be in that environment. You don't have to do anything, but just be in that environment. That is what I think separates us. Separates great things from good things, from my experience at least. And this idea that things need to be perfect and people need to be perfect, I've never met a successful person who's given that advice. Like, where did that come from? Where did this idea that we need to be perfect or we need to be feeling a certain way to produce a great impact, where did that come from? Because every successful person I've ever heard, I've not heard a single person say that. I've heard every successful person I've talked to or seen, I've heard them say the opposite. So this idea of perfection has not even been co-signed by the people we look up to in a great fashion. So who actually benefits from this idea of perfection? If the hypothesis is you need to feel perfect, you need to feel really good to produce something, and if you don't feel good, you can't produce something great. If that idea is not co-signed by great creators, by good creators, who actually benefits from that philosophy? And the only people, I guess, who benefit from that philosophy are the people who don't create anything, who don't have any experience, because it helps them feel like they don't have to work. They don't have to do it. But it makes me think, like, the way, I don't know where perfection came from and why it was taught in the way it did, but nobody successful has ever had it, has ever preached that as their North Star. So it made me think about that again and realize, like, life is really easy if you show up way more, I think. You just got to show up an insane amount. Don't ever not show up, if that makes sense. Be invested and be obsessive about the areas that you're interested in. If you're in music, show up to the studio. And stop worrying about the results, but do way more. If you're into YouTube, show up. Go search for ideas. That's what I'm doing now. I could be comfortable right now because I have a big video that reached the leaderboard, but I'm searching for ideas every day. And half of them fail. I'm spending hundreds of dollars just failing on ideas. That's what nobody sees. They see the idea that worked, but to get an idea that works, I'm sitting there and I'm failing. I'm showing up though. And there's a stream that I did with Odwin, who's a YouTuber, and we kind of trolled this guy together, this like small streamer, and and it was the funniest content ever. And right before I was gonna do that, I was like, dude, I'm just gonna pack it up, bro. And then I said, one more. You never know what it's gonna be. And I did. I trolled this guy, and it turned into one of the craziest videos I've ever been a part of, and I'm working on editing it right now. But point being, I didn't know that was going to be a great opportunity. I think this whole game is like 50% person, 50% opportunity. When a prepared person meets a prepared opportunity, you get bingo, right? And in this case, I don't know if I'm completely prepared all the time, but I'm going to try to keep searching because I might find a prepared opportunity. Because even me prepared in the most, high level sense is not going to guarantee success. That's why you see a lot of these big artists putting out records that don't hit the charts, because they are good. These are good records, but they don't have the juice. They don't have that hit, that flavor, that virality, but they're still perfectly done. So, like, there's a difference between having the juice and having the skill. Like, if you need to find something with some juice in it, but you can always make pretty good music without the juice, right? But the juice is that means that you're finding like this opportunity. It's like feeling at you. I found an entertaining opportunity, and now I can use my skill to capitalize on that juice. Without the juice, I can make good things, but they're not going to really hit the algorithm, hit the virality, like hit people, connect with people in that mainstream way. So it's a mixture of having the juice and the skill, is what I'm trying to say. So showing up every day is going to get you closer to finding the juice, because the juice is like lightning in the bottle. It's flowing all over. You have to keep showing up to find it. You have to keep trying to catch it. You can't, like, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you're not showing up, you're not going to, your chances of finding a juice moment, like a really good moment, is not very likely. But if you show up every day, you can find the juice. And if the juice is really good, if you come across something that's really crazy, you don't even have to have much skill to capitalize on it. If there's a viral moment of like a freaking UFO hitting the Earth, like, you don't need, metaphorically, if you just capture a UFO hitting the Earth, your phone doesn't need to edit this UFO video perfectly, because it's a damn UFO capturing the Earth. The actual content of the juice, the situation happening, is so incredibly crazy that your skill doesn't need to capitalize on it. So what are the metaphors of the UFOs hitting the Earth? What can you find in culture and content that is equivalent to that, or close to this UFO hitting the Earth that's so crazy that you don't need to highly edit and highly skillfully tell the story? So it's a mixture of showing up, and this is what greatness is a result of. Like, perfection, what you consider perfection, is not a result of randomly feeling a certain way a certain day, and it's never been that way. Name one person you look up to who has directly said that. I doubt it. Perfection has always been half skill and half juice. That is all it is. It's not this weird feeling that we have to feel. It's not a sense of security. It's not any of those things. It is half juice, half skill. The way to do it, build your skills and show up as much as you can so you can find the juice. You find the juice, use the skill to capitalize on juice, win. Hardest part, finding the juice. Finding the part that really resonates with people. And that's why you got to keep hunting. It's not a state you're in to reach greatness, to Pimp a Butterflies. All these albums, they're not, I don't think they're made from a sense of like perfection. It's a sense of a moment really being present and trying to find the juice here and building your skills good enough, and making it. Every single great thing that is ever made has never succeeded off perfection, ever. Perfection has literally been something created by I don't know who to make sure we don't succeed, or just like to cuck us. I don't know. Maybe people just got it wrong. But it's not true. The greatest pieces of art ever existing were not made with that mindset. So where is this useful? It's not. It's not real. That's my point. It's not real.